Hello, everyone. Hi, I'm Varun. I'm a managing director at AuxoAI. Today, we are back with another episode of Ways of Working with AI, and I have with me Rajan Gupta, director at Deutsche Telekom. Rajan, welcome to our podcast.
Thank you, Varun. Pleasure to be here. So, hi everyone. I am Rajan. I am the director of data science and AI/ML at Deutsche Telekom, which is one of the world's leading digital telecom operators, serving approximately 250 million mobile customers across 50 plus countries. So, I lead the global data science team over here for a division called as AI products, which focuses on scaling generative AI and agentic AI applications from POCs to production at enterprise scale. So that's one area that I pick up. From background perspectives, I have 15 plus years of experience in AI and machine learning. I hold doctorate and postdoctorate in this area, as well as I'm an accredited AI practitioner through Certified Analytics Professional certification, also recognized as a 3AI standout thought leader and change maker. I have also published extensively on AI governance, algorithmic decision making, enterprise AI transformations, and I'm also an active conference speaker and mentor, working with emerging leaders building AI systems. I think from the focus and the area points of view, I think what drives me is translating the cutting edge AI research into real world business problems, and that is where I'm helping Fortune 5 enterprises to navigate the transformation journey from traditional IT setups to an AI driven decision making kind of a setup, with key focuses around customer experiences, in telecom network operations, revenue optimizations, and the employee productivity. So these remain some of the areas that I've worked on, and I'm really excited to be here and share some of the learnings that I've had in my career.
Thank you, Rajan. Our conversation is all about AI and what's happening in the world. Let me first talk about, the impact specifically. Um, you mentioned digital transformation, and AI is now sort of beginning to play an important role there. What do you see as an impact there?
Yeah, I think we have seen data splurge in last many years now. When we were moving from a traditional paper-based system to an IT system to a digital system, we saw that a lot of business processes were getting transformed, and that resulted in a lot of data generation. If you see in past few years. Now, if you see with the advent of AI as a technology, I feel that traditional digital roadmaps, which assumed GenAI as just one of the initiative amongst many, are kind of lagging behind. Now, the kind of impact that we see from GenAI is that it is collapsing multi-year timelines and forces the complete operating model redesign. For us who are working in telcos right now,
Mhm.
this means that transformation that took maybe 3 to 4 years now compresses to 15 to 18 months, or even 20 months for that matter. And it has been done through a lot of accelerations around digital transformation initiatives like legacy modernizations,
Yeah.
the strategic pivot that we are taking, and any of the enterprise which is picking up with faster work productivities and faster revenue generating opportunities. I think from that perspective, all the business processes which were traditionally set up, now with the help of AI, generative AI, agentic AI, we are kind of moving faster. So really really good uh, impact that we see of AI and Gen AI.
Got it. And I kind of agree with what you said. One thing that we see in our conversations is the real challenge in all of these digital transformation projects is how do you measure success? Specifically, when Gen AI comes in, there's reimagination, as you mentioned. What are your thoughts on that? Like, how do you kind of go about thinking about deploying Gen AI, and on the other side, scaling it out? Because everyone these days is talking about some kind of POC. They wrote a prompt, got something, but as and that the projects that we're talking about, these are multi-year projects, a lot of data, a lot of complexities. How do we look at these success metrics here?
Right. Uh, Again, I'm a data science guy, and anything and everything around data excites me. And that is where I am a firm believer of a statement called as, if something cannot be measured, it cannot be improved.
Yeah.
That's the philosophy that I come from. And that is why organizations measuring GenAI success uh, through these kind of objective KPIs and metrics succeed better than the others. And that is also, kind of expanding its horizon. Now, there are a lot of traditional cost metrics alone that were being measured by a lot of organizations as part of their success measures. But we see that traditional cost metrics alone are, missing the 70% of the value. So there are more dimensions to it. Most enterprise track only, a couple of them maybe. It could be around cost, it could be around user adoption rates. But what exactly we are missing is, the kind of time that we are saving, the productivity gains that we are having, the kind of cost reductions that we are having, the revenue growths, the strategic differentiation that we are able to put in. So from that perspective, we all need to understand that projects which are essentially just measuring the time reduction. Maybe, I have done 25% of time reduction with adoption of Gen AI or agentic AI kind of project, which reports, let's say, a savings of 100,000 euros or $100,000 annually, is missing the complete picture. There is an operational efficiency that is gained. That's the only thing that gets measured. There are accuracy gains. For example, in a lot of customer sales and service bots, we reduce the billing errors, which prevents the frauds that could have happened of worth 200,000 euros or 300,000 euros. We have revenue lifts. We have faster billing cycles, enabling quicker upsell of services. Again, new revenue streams are getting generated. We have employee experiences now, since the agents can handle complex cases. So we have productivity improvement. We have more customers coming in, and we have strategic advantages coming out of these systems. So it's not just 100 or 200,000 euros that the traditional projects are measuring. It's more than that. It's probably 5 to 6x than the narrow metrics that we are generally considering. So in my view, the success measure should be holistic in nature, first of all. And the ROI dashboards needs fields like efficiencies, accuracies, revenue, experience, and competitive position. Because if you are just measuring one, probably you are kind of losing out on 80% visibility on what's the potential improvement that you can see in the organizations.
Yeah, and a lot of times we see it is just about that headcount reduction that everyone is talking about. But as you rightly pointed out, that there's more to it, where you're just looking at things now differently. And the idea of Gen AI being available makes it really, really no. It's a different perspective altogether.
And also, I'll just add a couple of things more. I think success is also about taking projects to production, Varun. A lot of times I've seen a lot of time is being spent on POCs and pilots, while we are not able to get into the production mode. So I think that's a pilot purgatory problem that we generally associate with, where there is a deployment trap. We keep on focusing on POCs only. But what are the business values that we are able to derive out of those pilots? Is there a feasibility to scale that up? What are the risks that's associated with that? I think that needs to be taken into consideration also. And there are a lot of scoring metrics that you can generally create out of these kind of frameworks, which helps you to identify which POCs to scale up. What are the quick wins? What are the medium complexities? What are the strategic directions you want to go into? And start scoring them, start containing the metrics, and start putting the back scores out of these. So I think it's not just measuring them, but also quick actioning that also defines the success of these projects. I would just add on to that.
Got it. I really like that phrase that you use, pilot purgatory. That's so very interesting. So you talked about these medium impact use cases, high impact use cases, measuring the metrics in the right way. What has been the most impactful use case, or let's say an observation from your point of view, deploying these at scale, and any learnings from that?
Yeah, I think if there are multiple projects that I've been part of, but I'll pick one which has been closer to my ways of working, and the kind of application that and the impact that it has brought in uh, is around the conversational AI,
Mm-hmm.
specifically the customer services and sales bots, because that's where I see the most impact is getting generated and created for not just telcos, but every service provider organization which works at a large B2C kind of a setup would require technology to help in automating and in improving the experiences around customer sales and services. So from that perspective, it's a force multiplier that directly hits the CSAT, the customer satisfaction scores, cost and revenue simultaneously.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's the kind of impact that this project brings in, and that is why I see this being very closer uh, to my likings. And again, the kind of impact that it has been able to create across the world is tremendous. And this kind of a project also comes with a lot of technical learnings, like
Mm-hmm.
the way agents are being designed at the back end, the way
Yes.
Gen AI pipelines being generated,
Yeah.
the business value of it. These traditional AI chatbots cost you less than €1 or less than $1 per interaction, as compared to the human agents, where the average numbers are 20 to 25 euros per hour, and these are standard
Mm-hmm.
industry measures, not specific to any organization, but just giving a high ballpark figures.
Yeah.
So from that perspective, you immediately associate 70 to 80% of reduction in the cost immediately. So you associate these
Mm-hmm.
kind of projects with quick wins also, plus the scale that it can have. The first contract resolutions improves by 30 to 40%. There are routine queries that can get deflected up to 70 to 80%. A lot of voice and chat players are claiming different kind of numbers across the world.
Yeah.
So from that perspective, you see queries getting deflected. You see customer satisfaction scores increasing by 15 to 20% as compared to when they are
Mm-hmm.
talking to some agents. So from that perspective, again, the impact that we see in the cost reduction, in the customer experience, in the savings, it really gives uh, an all-round kind of support to these projects, where managements are liking it. The CXOs are, considering these kind of projects which
Yeah.
can, cover up a lot of areas. But simultaneously, we have to be very cautious about the kind of quality of the data that we ingest into these systems, because these are some of the downsides, that if these are not built on good quality data, then it can
Mm-hmm.
have
Yeah.
a bit of concerns as well. But I would say that that's still controllable. That is still something that we all can control as data science experts. So yeah, this is the project that I would vouch for.
Correct. And when you look at use cases, and you would be looking at so many use cases currently, what would what's your prioritization framework? There's a lot of conversation right now around low hanging fruits, and kind of get them out. But we are talking about a shift in the way people can think about, as you said, the customer experience itself. So what should be the prioritization framework here?
Right. That's a pretty complex topic, Varun. And people are generally having binary choices. Do I pursue high
Mhm.
impact use case that are complex, or quick win use cases that are feasible but
Yeah.
incremental?
Yes.
These are the only two things, in my view, that organizations and enterprises usually consider. And honestly, this answer depends on your organizational stage and the maturity at which the organization is at. Uh, you know, However, I have also seen that majority of the enterprises choose the wrong path, and that is why
Mhm.
you'll see reports having 70% AI projects getting failed, or they are getting stalled even before production. So from that perspective, it's important that we prioritize
Mhm.
these kind of projects in the right way.
Okay.
Again, based on your organizational maturity. In my view, the right approach is threefold. First, we should look for feasibility-driven quick wins in our project selection. So,
Mhm.
uh, anything which proves value, build organization confidence, and unlocks the budget, because executive sponsorship is really important for all of
Absolutely.
us.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
to build that trust, to get that budget confidence coming in, I think we should look for feasibility driven quick wins. We should
Mhm.
not try and solve the most complex problem at the first stage, so
Yeah.
that we have some sort of opex being saved, some sort of operational efficiencies being coming in, and we have stakeholders belief coming into the AI projects. So that's the first wave that we should hit. Then we should look towards more complex, or rather medium complex kind of project,
Mhm.
which is more balanced. Some of the use cases like in technology terms, or in communication technology, it's around network anomaly detections. It could be predictive maintenance,
Mhm. Mhm.
which has a bit of technical rigor in it, which has a bit of uncertainty in the predictor variables. So from that perspective, you start to look at not just hundred of thousands of savings, but in millions you want to impact. And the volume of the data, the volume of calls, the
Yeah.
volume of input pointers gives you that confidence. So ideally you build on the first phase momentum, and now the team has operational maturity and a bit of infrastructural readiness that you have brought in for scalable projects. And that is when you go into the third phase, which is around the transformational and the impact driven use cases,
Mhm.
which typically runs maybe around 12 months to 15 months of time, where
Mhm.
you have some sort of annual revenues getting generated in millions, and you have
Yeah.
average revenue per users coming in, and you have a lot of P&Ls being impacted through these kind of projects. So by this time, you have center of excellences being set up and scaled, and processes are proven. Your risk governance exists. So all of these things has matured with time. So in case you are already there at the maturity to cover up the first phase and the second phase, probably
Mhm.
you can directly start with the third phase. But in case that's not the case, you start with the phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. So it's an incremental journey for you, and you have concrete prioritization metrics coming in, which is based on business impact, which is based on feasibilities, strategic alignments, risk profiles, and speed to value. So these are the 4 or 5 factors that usually helps us to define what all use cases we can pick
Mhm.
up, and in which phase we can start ranking them to be implemented. So from that perspective, we generally see that there is a prioritization metrics that comes in. Plus, we
Okay.
also look at the deployment bottlenecks, because infrastructure
Mhm.
plays a big role.
Yeah.
Data maturity plays a big role. The API network, and the kind of maturity that we have within the legacy systems versus the modern systems. These all things plays an important role, along with the human factor, in terms of skill sets and the kind of in-house capabilities that are available. Nowadays, I see we can also for speed perspectives, we can also get in touch with or collaborate with a lot of product companies and the
Yeah.
vendor companies who have ready to use skill sets and ready to use baseline products
Mhm.
with some maturity on the infrastructure, so that we don't have to start spending something from scratch. So that's how technologically technologically we are maturing. And I think the enterprises which are winning the agentic AI race are building more, are not building sophisticated models, but rather they are executing disciplined prioritizations, where quick wins leads to credibility, leads to
Mhm.
impact. And that's where we are also focusing on production ready, rather than waiting for ages and ages. So that's the real competitive advantage.
Got it. Yeah. This is a very useful, the three-step framework. And, you mentioned the prioritization framework, you mentioned risk governance, skill sets, vendor applications. So I think it's a good time to segue into the heart of the discussion, and that's about platforms. As enterprises roll out Gen AI, we are talking about all kinds of projects running in parallel. Your small, medium, and high impact projects. There should be right framework for everyone to look at. There are different vendor offerings. There is in-house development going on. What should be what should an enterprise think? Should it continue with a diffused approach to building things out independently, or when should they start thinking of a consolidation and start thinking about a platform way to rolling out these applications?
Yeah, again, very strategic in nature, and a lot of enterprises look to, lock into kind of very rigid centralization structure, or efforts which are really scattered around uh, the organization without proper. In my view, we have to start in a centralized manner and evolve to become more federated in our ways of working. So from that perspective, I always believe that we should always start with center of excellences, with the unified governance, shared data infrastructure, and the standardized tools. Because 70% of the centralized models move to the production successfully, versus, let's say 30% which are decentralized ones. So early centralization builds credibility, which is also tying back to what I said earlier, that you have to build trust and credibility for the executive sponsorship. That's really important. So from that perspective, if we have centrally aligned governance and tools, we start from there, and then we start shifting. Let's say after 6 months or 12 months of time, we start from the builder to an enabler kind of a role, where business units deploying domain specific use cases start using those centralized platforms, shared models, and guardrails, and that brings in a lot of innovation at the edge with control at the core. So that has to be really taken care of from the diffused model operating within the organizations. And if you'll see, with this kind of an approach, you'll see faster deployments up to 30-40% per team, where you'll have lesser and lesser of governance incidents coming in. That's really important for large scale enterprises, that any sort of governance incident, and there could be millions of penalties that can be thrown on top of them. So, the idea is centralized foundation and decentralized execution. And this hybrid model scales without a lot of chaos. So that's how I think right now.
Got it. So one of the important aspect of kind of centralizing this is that as you mentioned, there are the tools that matter and the governance structure that matters. And now you see a lot of vendors in the market which are offering these capabilities. So an important decision becomes buy versus build. So what should be the criteria for the enterprise to think about? What should they buy? What should they build? Pretty every enterprise today has capabilities in house where they're doing AI work, data science work, software engineering, and then there are products out in the market. What's the right way to think about these things?
Yeah, again, very important question and very important pointer to be considered for a lot of organizations. I
Mhm.
see that there are three critical layers to any platform architecture. When whether we are building it in house or we are buying it from outside. First is the foundational layer, where a lot of LLMs and multimodal capabilities reside. So, what is the foundational capabilities and how fluid we are with respect to changing those capabilities. The second layer I generally see is around orchestration, which is around workflow automations or agent coordinations,
Mhm.
agent selection, and all of those stuff, which allows us to move from one component to another fluidly. And third is the integration layer, where I see a lot of data connectors, business application bindings being done, a lot of APIs being called, and that generally is controlled within the organization with respect to the technical maturity that they are having and the kind of legacy stuff that they are maintaining. So from that perspective, I see that the critical features for the success of these platforms are around ease of building, ease of
Mhm.
integrations, and the orchestration. That
Yeah,
that means how much ease you can bring into all these three layers would be really critical from the platform point of view.
yeah.
Now, these platforms can be built in-house or
Mhm.
can be bought. In my experience for some years now, I see we need to build when AI is kind of really competitive for us.
Yeah.
We have really strong internal talent. We have data sovereignty, which is really critical to us. We
Mhm.
have a lot of proprietary algorithms and domain specific information and knowledge. That is something that we have to protect. So from that perspective, these are some of the critical points which allows us, or which forces us, or which directs us to go into the build kind of a direction.
Mhm.
Or
Mhm.
let's say the technology in itself is not matured that we can buy it from outside. It is still maturing, and that needs to be taken care of. On the other side, the buying decisions are when we have speed as a critical criteria for us. Go to market times are really short. We need production ready infrastructure. We need expertise and capabilities which are really operational for us, can really execute faster, because they have done it over and over again for the industry players, for other people. And there is no differentiation that we have to bring in right now. It's more of tactical decisions, saying that, yeah, this use case has already been solved by some product vendor or some solution provider, and this is how exactly it can be solved for us. There's nothing that proprietary comes into consideration in that case. So from that perspective, you buy when you have lesser time, you want to have an impact in early time frames, and you want to just have shorter release cycles. So from that point of view, I think buying decision is a better space. We are also looking at hybrid models these days, where both build and buying decisions are being taken together, where some of the data layers or the integrations layers are being built by the enterprises internally, whereas the application side or the algorithmic side is being taken care by the vendors or the product providers. So that's also something that we are observing. In my view, I think we have to buy the platform infrastructure and build what makes us unique. That's where the differentiation lies.
When we think about buy versus build, now there's an additional factor that has come in, which is like, you know, is this product just a wrapper? Is this product something that the next generation of models will have some of those capabilities, or is a product that, with the new development capabilities that the models have unlocked, can be quickly built in house? How much of that plays a role? I'll add another factor in this is like, does some of the capabilities that these models are claiming in terms of their performance on certain benchmarks, how much of that should be looked at in terms of making those decisions? Specifically, you mentioned that first layer, which is the foundation model layers. How does one think about that?
Right. I think benchmark is just an indication, to be honest. Benchmark is just for demonstrating capabilities at a very generic level. As soon as you go into the enterprise level, everything changes. Whatever was working at 90% accuracy suddenly gets down to 40, 45%, or even 30% accuracy.
Yeah.
So benchmarking is good to just filter out some of the similarly performing models and foundational elements. Ultimately, you have to see it on the enterprise. So there is a 3-layer strategy that we generally take into account. First is the benchmarking, just to filter out some of the candidate models.
Yeah.
Then we start working on the enterprise specific data set. So we do a lot of benchmarking internally from the data sets point of view, that allows us to understand and cross compare the model capabilities across the different problem areas, the different kind of tasks that we handle, and the different kind of data sets at different complexity levels. That becomes the benchmarking criteria for us internally. The models, the foundational elements which are working well on those, then we start to monitor them on the production data. And now we sample out some of the production data, or maybe we do A/B testing around 1 or 2% of the traffic going towards a specific foundational element, a specific model that is under consideration for us. We start monitoring that and see what is the impact that it produces in production. Because ultimately, at the end, the applications that we are building, whether it's around conversational AI, whether it's around search and retrieval, whether it is around user engagement, any area that you touch upon, the customer behavior is pretty dynamic. The way they interact with the AI systems cannot be controlled, cannot be defined. And hence, it is our understanding that we have to create a robust process around it that helps us to minimize that diversification and control those kind of data drifts, and ability to monitor and capture those data drifts, realign, retune, kind of fine tune these models, fine tune our prompts, and come back with the application improvements. So that's how we think, even if there's a wrapper, it requires a lot of work, to be honest.
Yeah. And I think since you mentioned about prompts and fine tuning, I think the fact that the enterprise knowledge itself is something that needs to be taken into account. This enterprise intelligence becomes a key factor in making these systems work. How does one think about capturing what, in some sense, is called quote unquote tribal knowledge?
Yeah, I think the tribal knowledge is kind of the key to enterprise AI
Mhm.
applications to be successful.
Yeah.
And I would say that enterprises that codify tribal knowledge into probably knowledge graphs
Mhm.
outperform their competitors. So you'll see, 60 to 70% in agent accuracies and contextual decision makings being achieved in case you can codify and use that tribal knowledge really well.
Yeah.
Because agentic applications without organizational context can hallucinate big time.
Yeah.
So from that perspective, I think uh, codification is important, and that can come in two forms. One is creation of knowledge graphs,
Mhm.
which captures the organization relationships, the customer segment, service dependencies, team expertise, business rules,
Yeah.
and the kind of newer updates that are happening within the organizations. Plus, we can also look at something like agentic RAGs, where agent retrieve the structured context before reasoning. Instead of getting any generic responses, they pull the customer history, any sort of billing rules or network topologies, simultaneously playing around it, making decisions grounded in reality, not just guessing. So
Yeah.
not just pulling out the information from what they know generically, but rather correlating a lot of entities in a very informed manner, and that can be really helpful. uh, you know and I see that in a lot of enterprises these days, people are ignoring this tribal knowledge, and they are facing kind of IT activities being stuck undocumented, uh, making AI applications brittle and unreliable. So it's not a dead tribal knowledge.
Mhm.
Many a times it's an ignored fact.
Yeah.
Many a times we are working in silos, and
Mhm.
your data storages are not really competitive, not really democratized, not
Mhm.
really available to the larger audience,
Yeah.
but it's a competitive asset, and we have to treat it like that. And codification can really help in improving these kind of AI applications.
Yeah, yeah. And how much of this AI maturity that you're referring to as part of the enterprise AI maturity also sort of manifests itself in terms of what how agents can do? We are talking about agent autonomy, like how autonomous should agents be versus, let's say, there's just an application which has one function, which is basically a wrapper be- to a wrapper and making a call to an LLM API. How what's the where where does one sit there, and how much can we grant that autonomy to an agent, maybe depending on the use case?
Yeah, I think we are moving towards agentic AI and agents as a collaborator. I
Hmm.
think we are moving from co-pilots to an autonomous teammates, to be honest,
Yeah.
uh, which is where we see that breakthrough opportunities lies, and
Mm.
how agents are helping us in different business models, in compression of decision cycles,
Mm.
as well as improving the human productivity to
Yeah.
the best. So from that perspective, I see teams of specialized agents coming up, which can work in different areas, like from the business perspective, revenue optimizations, customer services, network management,
Yeah.
being handled collaboratively and autonomously. So from that perspective, we are now maturing enough to move in that direction, where you have specialized agents collaborating with each other and working for the common goals. And that can also lead to new revenue streams being emerging, and
Mhm.
premium autonomous network services which competitors can't match. Those kind of stuff getting generated. So it's going to be really disruptive for a lot of business uh, and a lot of enterprises coming in. I see a lot of operational efficiencies being gained with the decision cycles getting shorter and shorter.
Yeah.
A week of analysis is getting into days of analysis, getting into hours of analysis. So quick
Hmm.
decision making, which is more accurate
Yeah.
as compared to human, is something that I see being taking over a lot of areas by
Yeah.
the agents, and humans would get more time to strategize, to execute and
Absolutely.
optimize continuously.
Yeah.
So, our role would be more towards the strategic side of things.
Hmm.
Agents execute and, continue to optimize themselves, the workflows that we want to strategize. So we give them the directions, and they execute and operate. So that kind of a, mode is being emerging, where it's not going to be kind of a replacement for us, but rather complementarity that brings in, where one human strategist an AI agent handling the execution, analysis, and optimization across domains. So it's kind of becoming the hybrid mode, and that's going to be maturing.
Yeah.
Today, we see a lot more dependence on humans only for operational activities also and
Mhm.
strategic activities also. Tomorrow, we are going to have a balance between the operational and the strategic side. So that's where I see, things are emerging and, things are coming up. And I think organizations in 2026 won't have, smarter AI. They'll have smarter humans empowered by AI teammates. And
That's
that's
very
where
interesting take.
that's where the real competitive advantage would start coming in, that people start to acknowledge that we are not having smarter AI, but smarter humans with AI support.
That's a very interesting take, and I'm looking forward to the day where in every work there is like a digital partner who you can talk to as if you're talking to your colleague. So, so I think that brings me to some interesting conversation around what are you looking forward to, or what are you most excited about in this journey that we are all now part of, AI evolution.
I think, again, I'm also looking forward to maturity in these kind of agentic applications, which
Hmm.
gives us good autonomy and simultaneously give good control over the business processes. Because while we want agents to become more autonomous, we
Hmm.
also want our business processes to be complied to and to be managed pretty effectively. And secondly, I'm really excited to see how technology is unfolding. You have a lot of physical AI elements coming in, you have a
Yeah.
lot of
Yeah.
quantum AI elements coming in, you have very fast inferencing speeds and inferencing accuracies that are coming in, the kind of chipsets that are getting designed. So it's really exciting to see the evolution of the technology in
Hmm.
itself. The applied side is one where you
Yes.
have a lot of business applications coming out of it, but the technology in itself is evolving at such a rapid pace,
Yeah.
with so many advancements coming in. That's really exciting right
Hmm.
now, which gives us a balance between how much we want to achieve on the business side and what exactly we need to implement to achieve those things. Both these sides are keeping a good balance and giving us a lot of action items in today's context.
Yeah. So I think what would be your advice to organizations that are still holding back, like, they're sort of still trying to figure out what should be their AI journey, or like how much of this is hype versus how much of this is real?
Yeah, I think there's a whenever I'm into any sort of boardroom discussions or any sort of executive meetings, the common question that I hear is that what can AI do for us? Please, as a data science professional, as an AI professional, people ask me, what can AI do for us? I think, in my view, the question still remains, on the other side of the table, that what business problems you are trying to solve.
Yeah.
What's our biggest operation bottleneck?
Yeah.
What's the first thing that you want to solve for yourself? And AI will become tool to solve that problem. It's
Okay.
not the starting point.
Yeah.
The starting point is still the business problem. It could be around customer experiences, it could be around churn rates, it could be around the frauds, it could be around anything which is
Mm.
impacting you, in your day-to-day interactions and transactions with customers, be it on the B2C side or B2B side. You still have to identify what are the business problems, what are the operational problems that you're having, and AI as a technology can be really helpful for you.
Yeah.
So organization needs to start with the business problem, not the technology. The second thing that I would see associated with organizations beginning their journey is the readiness.
Mhm.
Organizational readiness, which is parallel to technical readiness, is key.
Yeah.
Data and infrastructure really matters a lot, but sadly, more than 50% of the AI initiatives fail due to change management and not the technology.
Mhm.
So, apart from building the data and the infrastructure, change management also plays a crucial role,
Yeah.
where executive alignment has to be done, workforce upskilling has to be there,
Mhm.
cultural shift
Mhm.
towards experimentation has to be brought in. I see a lot of top-down effect on DT at least, where our top management and the group CEO, Tim Hodges, taking the initiatives himself and propagating that to the all the business units and entities around the world, to all the employees. So I see executive alignment is really crucial in making any organization successful. And without this, I think even the best of the AI pilots can never scale, because you
Yeah.
don't have the right sets, you don't have the right executive alignment, you don't have the executive sponsorship available to you, and there is no culture where you are actually trying to adopt AI.
Yeah.
It's gonna be meaningless. So I think organizational readiness has to be there apart from the infrastructure and the data technology. And we have to align ourselves in a very sequential order. As I was explaining earlier, also, quick wins leads to capability development, leads
Yeah.
to transformational impact.
Yeah.
So start with one high impact use case, which is really feasible for you within next, let's say, 3 to 6 months. Prove value, then expand.
Yeah.
We start with a very large and expensive plans right from day one without any meaningful impact. And organizations jumping to transformational use cases without foundational wins, in my view, fails most of the time.
Yeah.
So it's really important that we take things in a sequential order, where uh, things are pretty much sorted from the prioritization point of view. So build your foundations with wins, not with wishes. We can have plenty of wishes. I can have a magic wand of AI which can transform everything for me. That's not the case. You have to sequence relentlessly, and the AI success depends more on the organizational discipline than the algorithmic sophistication. So I can build the most sophisticated algorithm. I have done PhDs and postdoctoral, but most sophisticated algorithms doesn't work in production, but rather it's a combination of factors that really helps me to drive things. So that's where I would suggest to these organizations.
Thanks, Rajan. This was a wonderful conversation. Thanks for giving us your time. As always, it's a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Varun. It was equally exciting, and I'm really humbled to be part of this podcast. Thank you, and all the best.
Thank you.